What's going on, everybody? This is Dave from Post Rock Promo. I'm here with Adam from Lofield from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. How's it going, Adam?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. I really appreciate you being on. Let's jump right into it. So, when and how did Lofield form?
So Lofield started, I moved to Winston in 2018, and I kind of decided I had done music in the past. I grew up as a musician, um, but I'd kind of always wondered if I could, on my own, kind of with complete control over the music, what I would come up with, because my only context for making music was either for church or with friends or just like a band I was in college. It was never really kind of like, oh, what do I want? And I never even asked that question to begin with. So Lofield was really just kind of a pseudonym I picked up about a year and a half ago, because I realized that Adam Norris, my name, just wasn't quite cutting it. But it's really just kind of it's more of the name Lofield came from when I was first starting to write music. I decided, I thought I had this kind of image of when you're in an open field, you have complete freedom to do anything you want. You could burn it down, you could build something, you can create anything you want, but it's the fact that you have that choice. And then I really, really like the sentiment of lo-fi, not in the sense of just like cheap quality or just not good, but in more of again, the freedom of choice and not being tied down to it has to be this perfect thing in order for people to appreciate it. And so the idea of just combining the words into Lofield just kind of popped in my head when I was kind of considering those images and things in mind. But it's an exploration of what I want musically to create, and it's kind of in a lot of ways my love for video game soundtracks, post-rock bands like Mogwai, Caspian, Explosions. But what if their bassist was in charge? if that's the best way I can describe it.
That's sick. So, you just released a new album, As Long as We're Dreaming. How's the response been?
It's been really cool. Lofield is not necessarily, my big, it's not a career by any means. It's not what I do to earn a living. So I definitely have a lot of freedom with, expectation and what I think is going to happen when I release music. But this had a lot of positive reception. Websites are picking it up and hearing a lot of good things, hearing responses from people that I don't even know that well personally, saying, hey, this is I don't know who you are, but this is pretty cool. And I'm like, oh, so this is what that's like. Okay, that's kind of cool. So it's been neat seeing a little bit of an audience build. And specifically, I mean, there's been a couple albums I've done before this one, and neither of those have even come close to the level of reception that this one's gotten, which has been it's been really cool, actually getting a little bit of traction on Spotify and things like that. So
That's sick. So, who'd you record it with, and how was the process?
So Lofield, and like I said, Lofield's kind of a exploration of what I want. So in this case, almost everything was recorded by me. And so my drummer and good friend Joey Colvin, he helped out with the drumming and playing and writing a lot of the parts. And other than some guest features, people that, came along and added their talents to the album, everything else was mostly me and a good friend, Zach, who did some guitar work. But we recorded everything pretty much in the room we're in now. It's a very, very meager house studio, but over the years I've kind of figured out, what works in the box in a room like this. And we've been able to get a pretty cool, pretty good quality recording out of the experience. But the only thing that was different, and what most people picked up on really quickly, was the first two albums were done with just kind of in the box drum software that I was not very good with, and it just kind of got the job done, and it wasn't great. But this time around, we went to an amazing producer out of Greensboro. His name is Chris Hilbert. He runs a studio called Legit Biz, and I had recorded bass for a friend's band at his studio, and I was like, this guy knows what's up. Chris has done all of the drum production and recording for Between the Buried and Me. He's good friends with those guys in the bands. And he also has done some live mixing for them as well. So I knew the guy was just top notch. And so when I heard what kind of tones he was getting for drums, I was like, okay, I don't know what the rate is, but we're going to have to figure out how to do it here. So that was a distinct difference, was going in there. And we actually, Joey is super intense on preparation, and we actually walked into the room and we recorded all of the I just stood there and watched, kind of just baffled, but he recorded the whole album in like 5 hours. He just knocked most songs out in a take, and it was a very organic, very kind of exciting experience to, when you think about making an album, you think about producing and creating something kind of on your own. It can seem super arduous, seem really like it's just going to be such a hassle, and there's like this weird stress, which if it's not your job, really, like, why should you be giving yourself stress to begin with? But instead, it was the exact opposite. It was just kind of a lot of fun surprises, and like everyone giving their best effort and things going super smoothly. I mean, we technically finalized demos, recorded, and then I mixed and mastered all within about a year and a half, which by comparison for most bands, that's like, that's a song. For some people, they'll work on that for just one song is for a year and a half. So it went really fast, but it felt natural. Nothing felt like we were rushing it or trying to get something done for the world. It was just, okay, it's finalized. We're happy with everything, and let's get this thing out there.
That's awesome. So you're from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. How's the music scene there? Do you have a favorite local band, a favorite venue?
Yeah, Winston, and specifically, I'd say Central North Carolina is what I call like a sleeper part of musicians in the music scene. There's not necessarily a lot of local turnout right now, and that's probably just COVID combined with a couple other things. But the talent and the people, there's, oh gosh, let's see. We have Companion, which is a killer alternative pop group that my buddy Zach, who does guitar, he plays guitar for them and keys as well. You got, let's see, we got The Genuine, who I play bass for occasionally. They're a great kind of Americana indie rock band. And another local favorite, let's see, they're from Greensboro, but my friend Nikki, who did vocals for the song Ever Again on the new album, he has a band called The Sun God, and it's he calls himself, I think it was oh gosh, I forget the name. It was the guy from American Idol, Adam something. I'm forgetting his name, but he calls himself the Discount Adam from American Idol. It's great. It's really killer, out there kind of alt pop. It's a lot of fun to listen to. But here in town, it's neat because in a lot of ways we're kind of a hub, because Charlotte, Greensboro, Asheville, those, and even Wilmington in some cases, they all have a very robust independent kind of musicians and artist scene. And what Winston's kind of become in some ways right now, and I hope this will change, but it's more of a hub. A lot of musicians live in Winston, and a lot of bands operate and rehearse and stuff, but there's just not been as much of a resurgence as I thought there would be, for at least locally. There's a couple breweries. There's the Ramcat, which was called Old Ziggy's. They rebranded and had new management, which they've been great. They're all super nice guys over there. And there's an amazing local venue that when I first moved here, did some shows with Lofield for, called Monstercade, and they're known as the weirdest bar in North Carolina. They're great, but unfortunately with kind of pandemic stuff, they kind of switched how they organize their space. So right now, I'm kind of hoping for, maybe I'll have to kind of look into it myself, of figuring out where's the next kind of independent, smaller DIY space going to be, because right now it's just kind of up in the air, which I think could be really cool in a few months.
Very cool. So who are your biggest influences?
Let's see. So I already mentioned, I guess, some of the bigger post-rock bands, and that's, those are easy to name. But for me, a band that has influenced me for a really long time, they were a tooth and nail band called May, M-A-E. I remember listening to, let's see, would have been, I guess, Embers and Envelopes. I think that was one of their first albums they put out when I was maybe in 7th or 8th grade. And just it kind of blew my mind that music could sound so upbeat and so kind of I don't want to say flowery per se, because it's still, they're a rock band, but in a lot of ways, Just the timbre of their lead singer's vocals and how they wrote their music, and their musicianship was super all over the place, but they somehow always kind of made it work in a way that every album felt like a completely different band, but to my knowledge, they never really changed anything in terms of a lineup or members. It was just kind of the same group, which, blew my mind as a younger musician. I thought everything that band does is always going to sound the same or else. So was definitely inspired a lot by that. Speaking of those kinds of bands, definitely love Under Oath. I'll never forget popping in to Find the Great Line for the first time as like a 6th or 7th grader, which I might be aging myself saying that I was in middle school hearing that band for the first time. But I distinctly remember I thought I thought I love Skillet, and I'm not making fun of them at all. But at the time, as a younger listener, I thought, oh man, like nothing could be heavier. Nothing could be more intense than Skillet, because my whole perception, I hadn't really been introduced to much else. And then my brother just walked into my bedroom one day while I was listening to, I think it was the album with Comatose or something on it. And he pulls that album out and he puts in To Find the Great Line. He was like, "You'll thank me later." And then he just left. And from that moment forward, it was just like, I could not stop listening to metalcore or, post-hardcore, whatever you want to call it. I really, really enjoyed not just the energy, but just how kind of out there some of the musicianship was, and it sounding not like a lot of things I'd heard even from heavier alternative genres. And I knew it definitely influenced my bass playing, because, so many times when Lofield plays shows and stuff, it's just me as a bass player and my drummer, Joey, and we have some occasional tracks just to kind of fill out. But then I've kind of built a smaller board setup pedals system to kind of emulate certain guitar sounds, and, hearing things like, oh, you sound a lot like X band, like, for example, like Strawberry Girls. They're a killer instrumental trio. I think they're out of like Portland now or something. But, hearing that kind of heavier music, I say those things, but then if you went and listened to Lofield, almost any of the songs, you'd be like, no, how does that doesn't even sound like metal. That doesn't make any sense. But for me, it's more of the approach they had, like their goal of how they wanted to create music. That's what's made the biggest impression. How can I create this mood or atmosphere or sound in a way that isn't just like, different for the sake of being different, but also having a focused goal and not wanting to sound like anyone else. And that's a very, very distinct fine line to try to walk. And I think so far it's been okay. No one's booed us yet. So I'll take that as a success so far.
That's always good. Under Oath is an amazing band, and May's pretty good too.
Big fan. They're so good.
So now I'm going to ask you some non-music questions. It's a good way for me to get to know you. I did this with the other bands I interviewed. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. First one, favorite season?
Fall, for sure. I'm all about the feeling of that perfect in-between time where things aren't miserably hot, but I'm also not freezing cold. I mean, considering my size, I'm definitely a hoodie guy, so that's my jam.
You like bonfires and football and hoodies and
for
flannels.
Sure. Look at my frame. Come on now.
Heck yeah. If you could be any animal, what animal?
The joke is, I literally look like a bear in people's clothes. So I won't say that because that's too easy. I would definitely say I got to go with dog. I know it's like super plain, but in my mind, considering how jealous I am of just what little goes on between my dog's eyes, I would love to have that experience of just kind of just living and taking life as it comes. Just that kind of thing, honestly.
Very cool. If you could be fluent in another language instantly, what language?
Well, I'll go ahead and show off a little bit of my nerd culture, which I think is becoming more popular. So I don't think it's considered nerdy anymore, but I do love anime. I'm a big fan of just about any genre at this point. And so I would definitely say Japanese, just because I have a tendency to watch the subtitled and the original performance of a lot of those shows. And as much as I've gotten used to over the years reading subtitles, it definitely gets a little old. And, it's hard. You have to kind of give your complete focus to what you're watching because I wouldn't know what's going on. So that would be cool. A close second is Spanish, just because of my work in retail and how often I get annoyed by my inability to speak Spanish with people. So.
Can you say something in Japanese or Spanish?
Absolutely not. I'm not even gonna try to. I can think of it for sure, but I ain't gonna even attempt
I'm not gonna put you on the spot.
I'm not gonna butcher those.
If you go back in time and talk to one world leader, who would it be, or person of influence?
I just got done like watching and just experiencing some stuff, but it was forgetting his name now. Mr. Rogers. Honestly, he has. I didn't watch the whole thing, but just from what little I've learned, he is not just an incredibly nice person, but his philosophy and the way his world outlook and the way he interacted with people. I would love just to. I mean, I'm sure there's books I could read and interviews, but I just feel like that's the kind of person that you really won't get the true nature of who they are unless you were in the room getting it at face value. He just seemed like I learned that when he weighs himself on the scale, his goal was to always weigh 143 because he assigned an acronym of 1 I, 4 love, 3 you. Is literally an affirmation of positivity to himself to say, I love myself with his weight. And I mean, I can't even wrap my mind around
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I consider myself a pretty outgoing, happy person. I can be friends with anyone, but that is next level. I mean, that's a whole other perspective. I just would love to understand better.
That was one of my favorite shows growing up.
Right. And there's a reason why. I mean, he had such a clear idea of how he wanted to approach any topic. I mean, the guy covered so much with his show. It's hard to believe 30 years went by so fast, but the guy just, is the way he. Exactly. Yeah.
Our last question. What are some places in Winston-Salem that visitors should check out?
Ooh, that's another toughie. Okay. So I would say if you're looking for a killer like restaurant bar combo, not necessarily just a bar, but just a restaurant place like for family maybe. Finnegan's Wake is an awesome little Irish pub that's been around forever, off Trade Street downtown. Honestly, if you can come to Winston, most of Trade Street, Liberty Street, and 4th, those are kind of the three main kind of where a lot of businesses are kind of even reopening and they've been around for a long time. Camino Bakery is like choice for coffee. There are people who come in from other parts of the country who say, Camino is the best coffee and the best bakery they've ever been to. And To Your Health, I think, is an awesome another bakery here in town. It's actually funny you mentioned that. I found out that Kumail Nanjiani, he's in the new Eternals movie coming up, and he's just a great actor. His wife is from Winston, and they actually love Camino and some of these other places so much that they do orders to have stuff flown in from Winston to them when they're working on stuff. So
wow.
Yeah, it was cool learning that they're like such big fans that they make posts about the businesses and stuff, because definitely Camino, the whole staff and a lot of my friends, I kind of make the joke that if you're an artist or creative, you've probably either been friends with or worked at a Camino bakery. There's like 4 of them in town at this point. You've probably either been a patron or you worked at one.
You're making me really hungry.
Dude, you're telling me I already had it like 4 hours ago and I want to go back, but they're closed at this point. I'm sad. They're good stuff, man. They're great.
You'll have to take me to those places when I get there.
Dude, come on down. They got some good stuff. And we actually have good barbecue. Unlike
Heck yeah. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah. All right. That's what I'm saying, man. Lexington barbecue is untouchable. I mean, I know there's probably people that would disagree, and I get it, but they're wrong. You
guys have any good taco places there? I'm a big taco guy.
There's Alma Mexicana, which they're great. I would say they're more of a Contemporary attempted a lot of that stuff. They have unique stuff, but there are a ton of taco trucks and street carts that show up around Liberty Trade. And even there's like some spots near, I live near kind of the back part of downtown, like a mile away where some neighborhoods are, like off 25th. And there's just like, I'm not trying to be funny, but there are an amazing gas station taco trucks that just show up. They have like, you know, Tio's Tacos, and it's like $2, and it's the best. It's hard to compete.
That's it. I'm going to Winston-Salem tomorrow.
All right, dude. Sounds good. I got an extra room. Unless the baby shows up, then you'll probably just stay.
I'll have to go in a hotel then.
Sounds good.
Well, I really appreciate you, man, coming on and chatting up a little bit. I really appreciate you supporting me in post-rock promo.
Dude, for sure. This is the most important part of what it means to promote music, is create these conversations and help people understand that promotion and these sorts of things, it's not, I mean, you can call it a business all you want, but in reality, it's the personal act of getting people to connect more and realize just how much good stuff is out there. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Of course. Well, we'll talk soon. I hope you have a great night.
You too, bud.
See you later.